And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, we are going to be talking about the one and only Vince Carter. Again, the half man, half amazing. That was one of the nicknames that he was giving. Again, Air Canada, amongst several other nicknames that he was given. He is by far one of the NBA's best dunkers, one of the NBA's best players, not really in GOAT conversation, sure, but in terms of just raw athletic ability and raw talent, Vince Carter, half man, half amazing, was just that guy. He was that dunker. In fact, he's considered by a lot of people to be the best dunker in the history of basketball, period. He jumped over a 7-footer. He has so many 360 dunks that he does in game. He's won dunk contests before. His cousin, Tracy McGrady, was also in the NBA. They're just an athletic bunch. They're just an athletic duo. They're fantastic. He was great on the Raptors. He was also great on the Nets. And that is exactly where both of his jerseys are being retired. He's going to be retired as a Toronto Raptor, and he's going to be retired as a New Jersey/Brooklyn Net. And he's going to be the first ever Raptors player with a jersey retired for the franchise. And, again, I'm honestly very surprised that the Raptors decided to retire his jersey. Now, I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be like, you're surprised after saying that his name is literally half man, half amazing, and let me explain why. Vince Carter, when he was on the Raptors, he was phenomenal. I'll go ahead and I'll pull up his averages right now and I'll read them off. Vince Carter, when he was on the Raptors, he was like a 27 point per game scorer. I remember he had that season as well. And I'm only going to talk about, his prime. I do know that he's had the longest NBA career. He's the only NBA player that has played in 4 decades of NBA basketball. Played in the 90s, played in the 2000s, played in the 2010s, and then played in the 2020s as well. He just an old man, essentially. The old man of the NBA at the time. But when he was on the Raptors, he was an all-star in almost every single year. The highest points per game that he averaged was 27 for the Toronto Raptors. The one big bugaboo that he had was really the postseason. He wasn't really all that much of a performer in the postseason. And, yes, he would make it to the postseason, but most of the time he would only make it as far as the second round. And with the Raptors, go figure, he would barely make the postseason with the Raptors because they weren't really all that good of a team. However, he was still a phenomenal scorer. Now, the big reason why I said that I'm very surprised that Toronto is retiring his jersey is because of the drama that went down with the Raptors. Now, I don't know the exact stories and exactly what happened, but I do know that Vince Carter, there was one point where Vince Carter did not want to play with Toronto anymore. And he wanted to get traded to the Nets. He wanted to go to New Jersey. For whatever reason it might be, he did want to go to New Jersey and play for the Nets. However, Toronto wasn't having that. Toronto wasn't going to trade him. So, out of nowhere, he just decides to reduce his production a little bit. So, in 2003, he averaged 20 points per game, which isn't bad, but way below his usual averages. And then in the next season, he averaged 22 and then 24. But then in 2005, for 20 games with the Raptors, he averaged 15 points per game. Just out of nowhere, he just plummeted, right? Now, he played really, really bad in this season. And this was sort of the sort of final push that he needed, that he gave the Raptors to trade him, okay? Immediately, once he gets traded to New Jersey, all of a sudden, he remembers how to play basketball again and averages 27 points per game. I am not making this up. You can look at it on the box scores. There was, in the 2004 to 2005 season, he played 20 games for the Toronto Raptors. And in those 20 games, he averaged 15 points. The second he goes over to New Jersey, he averages 27 points per game and continues with his scoring production for the next 3 years. And it's like he wanted to get traded. And he wanted out of Toronto. And I'm honestly very surprised that they still went through with retiring his jersey after doing that, because that's essentially drama. Like, that is drama. Whether you want to, there was definitely drama going on in that season. I was only a baby when that season happened, so I don't really remember it all that well, obviously, but I know for a fact there was definitely drama brewing in that system and with that team and how it was going about. Because, I mean, from averaging 15 points per game to 27 points per game, he was deliberately throwing matches. And what's even crazier to me is the jump in 3-point percentage. Because aside from being an amazing dunker, Vince Carter was a phenomenal shooter as well. When he was on Toronto, he shot 32% from 3. But then once he goes over to New Jersey, he shoots 42% from 3. That is a huge jump in efficiency. That is a 10% gap in efficiency from 3-point shooting alone. And in terms of the field goal percentage, he went from 41 to 46, which is also very impressive. And also, the free throw shooting, surprisingly, he shot 69% from the free throw line when he was on Toronto in the final year. Then once he goes to New Jersey, he shoots 81% from the line. And I'm just like, what? What was that? Out of nowhere. So I'm very surprised, but props to Toronto for actually wanting to retire and remember his career on the Raptors. And that's sort of like the majority, like that's sort of mainly what I wanted to talk about, just how surprised I was at this man being retired. I knew he was going to get his jersey retired for the Nets, no question about it. But for the Raptors, I was just way more surprised. And I wanted to just give my reasoning as to why that was. So I hope you guys enjoyed that segment, and I hope you guys are Vince Carter fans. I know I'm a Vince Carter fan. I like seeing his dunks at the time, and I know he was rather old. He also had some pretty good plays on the Dallas Mavericks. He did hit that one game winner if you look at his career highlights. So that's all that I have on the fifth segment. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, we love hearing what you guys have to say during the show. Whether you have a hot take or a burning question, we are all ears. If you really want your comment or question to get noticed, you can use Super Chat or use the link displayed below the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. Send in your comments that way. Either or is going to be guaranteed to get mentioned on the show next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson. I hope you guys enjoy football later tonight. Remember, tune into the podcast and tune into the football podcast. Also, tune into the WNBA games that are going to happen tomorrow and on Wednesday. And I am your host, Nelson. I am extremely hungry, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to